up guys, Sebastian here with Walker's Vintage. In today's video we'll be talking about how to get the most out of your SM57. So if you haven't heard of this popular mic before, 57s are one of the most versatile mics ever made. They've been around since forever, tons of big artists have used it, and it's arguably one of the best choices that you have for home recordings and also professional recordings as well. Now, it is also a very affordable mic. You can buy one of these brand new for approximately $100. And you'll be surprised as to how many sounds you can get out of this mic. What you heard at the beginning was all recorded just using one SM57 and basically playing around with a mic placement to get those sounds, which is really the point of this video. How really you can change the sound or pre-mix in a way where you're tracking based on where the microphone is placed within the speaker. And you can use this for a variety of many different instruments, but in this case we'll be talking about guitar and bass. So one of the best ways of getting different sounds out of your miking technique has to do with how you're capturing the sound from the source. In particular, when we're talking about speakers, you have different components that alter the sound of that speaker. We talk about the dome, which is the center of the speaker. When you have your mic right in front of it, that's called the axis. Around the dome, you have the cone of the speaker, and the farther away you go from the axis, the darker the sound gets. Typically for guitar, what gets recommended is that you're right in between the edge between the cone and the dome of the speaker. That's what gets you the most balanced sound. However, you can play around with how you position your mic in relationship to that to get a different sound. You want a darker tone, move it away from the dome. You want a brighter sound, get it closer to the axis or the center of the dome. And you can also play around with the angle of the mic to get a mix of those sounds, something that is brighter with a little bit more body, for example. So when it comes to tracking guitars, doubling is a very popular technique because it enhances the sound that you already have and gives it a thicker, more 3D sound. You can achieve this by changing guitars or amplifiers and basically just retracking the same part that you just did. And the differences between those instruments is gonna create that 3D sound and feel. However, if you don't have access to, different gear, when it comes to that, you can play around with your miking technique and the way you play the part to make that difference. So for example, if you track the same exact thing and you pan it, you're gonna get a really nice stereo image of the same track. However, the more distinct those two parts are, the more of a chorusy 3D effect you're gonna get, and the more new elements are gonna get incorporated, the thicker it's gonna sound. This is greatly affected by the mic positioning as well. If you track the same part, but with the mic on a slightly different position, all of a sudden the phase gets affected, and what you're picking from the speaker, it's also a little bit different. So it's gonna make your sound a little bit bigger, thicker, and widen up apart instead of having them so tightly close together. We'll be dissecting the tracks that we played at the beginning in a second so you guys can hear more of that difference. Now for the lead parts of the jam, what we did is to move the 57 dead center on the axis, right on the center of the cone. This is the area of the speaker where you get the most high-end information. Therefore, the mic is gonna pick up all that extra presence. This is gonna get enhanced too by how close the microphone is to the speaker. The closer you get it, the more upfront in your face the sound is gonna be, and the further back, the more room you're gonna get. So moving it between the cone and the dome might give us the best sound, but in the case of this mix, since we wanted this guitar track to stand out versus the other two, putting it right in the center achieved that effect by really bringing the guitar up close and forward and giving it the extra presence boost that it needed to cut in the mix. Now, the other thing that we recorded is the bass through the hot rod. This might be a little bit controversial, just so you know. As long as you have an amp that has high enough headroom and the speakers are modern and not too worn, this is gonna be totally fine. And in fact, you're gonna get some really cool sounds by trying this out. So experiment at home at your own risk, but in this case, it actually sounded really good. So the bass was run through the same channel as the other tracks. And the way we achieved that sound that was slightly different is by actually doing the opposite that we did for the double tracking. So the microphone now was dead center in front of the axis, however, it was angled towards the edge of the cone. What this did is that it captured the definition that you get from the axis, but it picked up more low end, which typically comes from the edge of the cone. So all of what you heard here was done with just a single microphone, single amp with the same settings, yet it sounds completely different. So the takeaway from this video is to experiment with the gear you have. We picked the 57 because this is one of the most popular options and most of you probably already own one, but you can arguably apply this rule to any dynamic microphone and even some condensers as well. So mic positioning is a very important tool that every guitar player should master in order to get the most out of the gear they have. These tips are our picks, but in reality, you can do whatever you want. We encourage you to experiment with this and see if you find some cool sounds. Maybe you might want to mic the back of a speaker through an open back cabinet, and if you own a second 57 or any other mic up the front of the speaker, blend those two sounds and see if you get results that are interesting. Also think that if an individual guitar sound, it's not to your liking, it might actually be what works in the mix. So think about the context of the song that you're working in rather than the individual sounds, and what is it that that specific track is accomplishing in your mix. With that said, if you guys enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you want to pick up any of the gear used here for yourselves, the links will be down below in the description. For more information about us, you can visit our website, wildgracevintage.com. And finally, for more content like this, you can follow our Instagram account, @wildgracevintage. My name is Sebastian. Till next time.